Good afternoon. Welcome to our daily live coverage, bringing you the latest development from local and regional scene as events continue to unfold. As we enter the 22nd day of the Iranian attacks on the state of Kuwait, the situation remains dynamic with key developments recorded over the past 24 hours up to this moment. The Ministry of Information emphasized the need for the public to rely strictly on credible and official sources. We will continue through this coverage to provide you comprehensive and timely updates on all relevant local and regional fronts. The Environment Public Authority in Kuwait confirmed that in the monitoring the environmental situation at the Mina Al Ahmadi refinery around the clock, in coordination with the relevant authorities in the country following the recent attacks. The escalating conflicts across the Middle East is driving significant environmental degradation, threatening ecosystems, public health, and critical resources, while compounding existing vulnerabilities and undermining long-term regional sustainability and resilience. Here's more in this report.
Escalating violence across parts of the Middle East is generating profound and far-reaching environmental consequences, compounding an already fragile ecological landscape. Beyond the immediate human toll, the conflict is contributing to widespread environmental degradation through the destruction of critical infrastructure, the release of hazardous pollutants, and the disruption of natural resource systems essential for regional stability. Strikes on oil facilities, including those located in or near densely populated urban areas, have resulted in large-scale fires emitting thick plumes of smoke containing toxic compounds. These emissions pose immediate and long-term risks to human health, particularly for vulnerable populations such as children, while simultaneously degrading air quality across affected regions. Historical precedents demonstrate that oil fires and related incidents can leave lasting environmental legacies, contaminating air, soil, and water systems for decades. The environmental impact extends beyond atmospheric pollution. Contaminants released from fires and explosions can infiltrate soil layers, leach into groundwater, and ultimately enter agriculture systems, raising concerns over food safety and long-term ecosystem health. In marine environments, reported oil spills threaten biodiversity and coastal livelihoods, particularly in regions heavily dependent on fisheries and marine resources. Such contamination risks destabilizing already sensitive ecological balances. The conflict is also exacerbating pre-existing environmental vulnerabilities, particularly in relation to water scarcity. Several countries in the region rely heavily on desalination plants as a primary source of fresh water. Damage or disruption to these facilities could have catastrophic consequences for water security, placing millions at risk. In a region already grappling with climate stress and limited natural freshwater resources, such impacts could significantly hinder resilience and recovery efforts. The widespread use of munitions introduces additional environmental hazards. Modern weapon systems often contain heavy metals, explosive residues, and persistent chemical compounds such as PFAS, which are highly resistant to environmental degradation. Fires triggered by strikes may further release dangerous compounds, including dioxins and furans, intensifying environmental contamination. In addition to localized impacts, the broader environmental footprint of the conflict is substantial. Military operations are inherently carbon-intensive, contributing to increased greenhouse gas emissions. Disruptions to key maritime routes, particularly through the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal, have forced global shipping to adopt longer routes, significantly increasing fuel consumption and emissions. Similarly, changes in aviation routes due to airspace restrictions further contribute to rising carbon outputs, amplifying the global climate burden. Prior to the escalation, several countries in the region were already facing severe environmental challenges, including air pollution, land degradation, and water scarcity. The current conflict risks reversing progress made in environmental protection and sustainability initiatives while placing additional strain on already limited resources. Environmental recovery, often deprioritized in most conflict settings, may face significant delays, further entrenching ecological damage. A growing body of research underscores the importance of integrating environmental considerations into conflict response and recovery strategies. Failure to address environmental degradation not only prolongs ecological harm, but may also undermine long term stability and resilience. In a region where ecosystems, economies, and populations are deeply interconnected, the environmental consequences of conflict are not confined by borders, but extend across the broader Middle East and beyond.
Welcome back to this live coverage. Now, joining me in the studio is Dr. Ali Mohammed Khrebat, President of the Specialized Environmental Firms and Companies Association, also known as SEFCA, to provide in-depth analysis on the environmental consequences of the recent regional conflict, offer insights into ecological impacts, pollution risks, and long-term recovery challenges. Dr. Ali, first of all, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me today, and hopefully that our interview will be very beneficial for the viewers.
Inshallah. Dr. Ali, first of all, who is SEFCA and its role in the current crisis and its environmental and health impacts?
Well, SEFCA, the Specialized Environmental Firms and Companies Association, is a very professional association. And it was established about 1 year ago by an order by the First Deputy Minister, His Excellency Sheikh Fahd Al-Yusuf Sabah, and also the Director General of the Manpower Authority. And it was officially our role and responsibilities were indicated through Kuwait Al-Yawm Gazette. And since that date, we are working closely with the Environment Public Authority of the State of Kuwait and other organizations. And we had many initiatives. Regarding the current crisis, we had several meetings with the head of the APA, Ms. Nof Bahbahani, and her technical team. And also we wrote 2 reports, one for the EPA and one for Her Excellency Reem Leflage, which is now responsible for the Environment Public Authority. Our reports indicated that what scenarios might happen during this crisis, whether it is related to the air quality or any spillage that might happen or any radiation that might be released if the nuclear reactor at Bushehr or other enrichment facilities like Natanz are hit, and what are the possibility that this radiation and chemicals release might be reaching Kuwait.
Now, Dr. Ali, we'll get into more depth of the specialized work SEFCA does, as well as your insights on what's happening. Now, as a president of SEFCA, how are Kuwait's private environmental firms and companies being integrated into the national emergency response? And are we equipped for a large-scale, God forbid, oil spill cleanup mid-conflict?
Well, SEFCA members are all the firms and companies who are specialized in providing environmental services and consultation. And these need to be registered with the Environment Public Authority and also with the Ministry of Trade. Once they are registered, they have to apply to be members within SEFCA system. And we, if the board, agreed that these companies and firms to be members, then they can be approved and they can work within the system of SEFCA. Now, SEFCA is like the technical right hand of the EPA. Because, no developmental project, whether it is in the oil sector, industrial sector, or government sector, or all private sectors, if they have any kind of developmental project that need to be implemented, it needs first to be assessed environmentally and to see what are the adverse environmental impacts. And then we do a comprehensive study, a detailed technical study, and we submit this study to the EPA. Once the EPA approve it, then the project can be implemented. Without approval, all this development of project that you can see all over Kuwait cannot be implemented unless there is certain environmental assessment reports and a study to be conducted and carried out for them.
Now, with the implementation,
Yes.
are we equipped to handle
Yes.
any sort of crisis that would affect the environment in Kuwait?
Yeah, as I said, these companies are very specialized. They have their own air quality systems. They have handheld instruments. And we gave a list of all equipments and also all the cadres and also the human resources that all these companies they have and what they can do just in case of any crisis that might happen and what we can do for them. So we already have a contact with the EPA and we gave them all our resources to be available for them when it is required and needed.
Let's talk about an example, for instance, and we showed earlier the report about Mina Al-Ahmadi. Now, as we speak, firefighters were battling the blaze at Mina Al-Ahmadi after the second strike. What is your immediate assessment of the air quality for the surrounding residential area?
Yeah. Well, if any refinery or storage area or industrial area within a refinery or beyond the refinery boundaries, if it is hit, then there will be a big explosion if it is crude oil or oil derivatives. There will be not like a big fireball, because fireballs usually associated with pressurized gases.
Yes.
The first thing that once the pollutants are emitted, the first thing that happens is that they are mixed with the atmospheric air, the air that we breathe. The air that we breathe is mainly nitrogen, about 79%, and 21% is oxygen. Now, this air usually have also other pollutants and other noble gases. Now, the pollutants that are released are mixed with these gases that already exist, and some of these might be harmful if the concentration is high. So an explosion that happened, if the concentration are high, then there might be some kind of probability of increased risk. But with atmospheric air and also wind and wind speed and wind direction, most of these pollutants are like, become diluted and also transported from one area to another area. So once it is released, it doesn't mean that, the whole block of air pollutants and smoke that, release is moving as it is. It is mixed, transported by wind to other area. And the good thing is, in Kuwait is that, we have the dominant wind direction is the north-westerly winds. So most of these pollutants will be moved to the south of the country and beyond the borders.
Now, this is when speaking with fire and gas pollution. But what if we move to a different type of pollution? With my limited expertise, especially with a few days ago we had rain in Kuwait. Anything would affect the environment seeping from the sky to the ground?
Well, I was reading or hearing from the social media that, some people, because they are afraid, they release some information that might be like acid rain falling in Kuwait. But this is not the case, because, to have acid rain, you need to have massive quantities of air pollutants being emitted all the time. What's happening is that, the firefighters and the other authorities, they manage to deal and manage the situation quickly. So this phenomena of acid rain will not be happening as it is mentioned.
We've experienced this in the past, in the 1990 Gulf War, and when the burning of the oil fields.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about this in the next question. But now, how vulnerable is our drinking water supply if an oil spill reaches water tanks?
See, any organization, especially like, the oil sector, even small organizations, small industries, usually they have a system. This system is known as the Health, Safety, Environment and Security Management System. And within this system, it contains all the risk that might be happening or generated just in case of any physical or chemical or war or any kind of sources of risk that might happen that might damage the way the organization behaving or doing the ordinary work every day. So this system protect the organization. So For example, the water desalination plant, they have this system. The oil sector, like the refineries, the KMBC refineries, they have this system. And they are already prepared within the system to have management for any crisis and how to respond to it. So these systems make plans, and these plans, they should be ready, and they also test these plans. So in case now for the water quality, all the water desalination plants, they have emergency procedures. They prevent, for example, if any oil spill, they have booms. Booms are like floating rubber devices with a skirt that prevent the water from getting into the water intakes. Mm-hmm. So all these emergency plans are already existing, and all of the big organizations, like as I said, the oil sector and also the Ministry of Electricity and Water, they have these plans implemented or to be implemented when it is needed. So I think we are safe in this direction.
Maybe we will talk further about those mentioned points about the water desalination plants. But before we do, Dr. Ali, let's take a quick break and we'll continue our discussion. Now, regarding the latest attacks on Mina Al Ahmadi refinery, the Environment Public Authority is working around the clock in coordination with the relevant authorities in the country to ensure safety. The Director of the Public Relations of Media, Sheikh Al Ibrahim, said that the authority is monitoring readings periodically and the situation is stable, noting that the current monitoring results indicate that the air quality levels are within permissible limits according to national standards, with no recorded violations, while monitoring and precautionary measures continue. She also stated that the results show the environmental situation is within safe limits and there is no immediate risk to the residential areas or the public health at present. Al Ibrahim also emphasized the continuation of around-the-clock monitoring and surveillance and full coordination and cooperation with the concerned authorities to respond immediately to any developments and take precautionary measures in accordance with the approved environmental standards.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
Welcome back to our daily live coverage of the latest events happening in the region, bringing you the updates and breaking news. Now, still with me and a guest here in the studio is Dr. Ali Khreibot, President of the Specialized Environmental Firms and Companies Association, also known as SEFCA. Dr. Ali, we touched base earlier about the Gulf War. Now, many are drawing parallel to the 1991 oil fires. And in your view, how does the high precision nature of the 2026 warfare makes the environmental damage more contained, or are we just seeing different types of environmental catastrophe?
Well, if we compare it to the adverse impact on the state of Kuwait, it will be very minor. Because what happened in 1991 is that more than 700 oil wells were damaged by the Iraqi regime. Mm-hmm. And a lot of air pollutants, massive air pollutants went in the air. And there were a lot of research, and I recall one of them that, they done a research and they found even on the top of the Himalayas mountains that there is soot that comes or came all the way from the burning oil wells. Mm. So at that time, the impacts were not only local, not were only regional, but global. Now, what happened during the current war, the aggression on the state of Kuwait and on the oil refineries and other fuel storage areas, is that it is mainly localized within the impact within the area itself. Yeah, for sure there is air pollutants. Air pollutants are being emitted. But as I said earlier, that most of these pollutants are limited, localized, and they are emitted mixed with the current air, and also with the given the like wind speed, wind direction. So they are pushing it away from the local area that they were hit. Also regarding the oil spill, during the 1991, about 6 to 8 million barrel of crude oil were spilled from Kuwait and moved all the way to the neighboring countries, starting from Saudi Arabia to Bahrain and other Gulf countries. Currently, there is no major oil spills and slicks that are moving within the area. Still now the situation is under control, but it's not matching the catastrophe that happened in 1991.
Now, the 1991 oil fires is considered one of the worst catastrophes to ever hit the earth.
Yes.
And we also touched base about soil contamination, acid rain. Now, we've seen footage of oil rain in parts of Iran following the strikes. Is there risk of similar atmospheric fallout over Kuwait soil if the wind shifts?
I don't think that we'll be having a similar situation like what happened in Kuwait in 1991, as is the situation as of now. But don't forget that risk is usually changing. The risk is not like stationary. So what is not unlikely to happen, it might be likely to happen in accordance to the circumstances surrounding the risk and also the hazard, which is the source of risk. What happened in Iran is that Tehran and also the other neighboring cities, they are in a valley, and within these areas there is something happening called natural phenomena known as thermal inversions. Now, when a thermal inversion happens, most of the pollutants cannot be dispersing, so they concentrate and they become lower and moving toward the ground. So this is why it the smoke cannot be dispersed and cannot move from one area to another area, because the air usually can be sometimes stagnant. So this is why you can have the smoke in certain places is not moving very fast, it's not dispersing very fast, and this is why it gives high concentration of pollutants. But in Kuwait it's a different area, a different scope.
Understood. Now, if we can shift gears a bit and move and talk about something that might have an impact on, which is maritime life and the ecological systems. With the destruction of the South Pars gas platforms, we are seeing significant debris and potential leaks in the Gulf. What is the risk of a massive red tide or ecological collapse that could affect our food security in Kuwait?
Okay. Regarding food security, all countries, they have their own food security strategies. So the food can be produced even during the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. Many local food companies, they were still working, and they produce food. So each country, they have a load of food materials that can be utilized for a year or more than a year. So we are safe from this point of view. Also, in Kuwait, we have the desert route, the land route, and also a lot of food material can be brought from many countries surrounding Kuwait. The main important thing is that, regarding the current situation, we will have two scenarios. One scenario is related to Strait of Hormuz, and the second one, if Khark Island, which is the most oil producing terminal in Iran.
Yes.
If these two areas, massive, tankers that contain more than one of the tankers or more than tankers contain 2 million barrels of oils, they are exploded, then the slick can be moving from one area to another area, the whole oil spill, including the slick. So what happens in this scenario near Strait of Hormuz is that mostly the Iranian coastal areas and part of the UAE and Oman coastal areas and all their habitat, including the intertidal zone, will be impacted quickly within 1 day, because the oil spill will reach these coastal areas, the nearby coastal areas, within 1 day. But for areas like Kuwait, if something happened in Hormuz and this oil slick or oil spill, massive one, moved, it might reach Kuwait within 7 days. Now for Khark Island, if it is hit, the spill might be reaching Kuwait within 1.5 or 2 days. But this is enough that all the emergency plan can be put, which are already existing and can be dealt with safely.
And there was a massive fire of a tanker off the Basra port, was it, a couple of days ago? Did have any impact to the maritime or the ecology in this region? As
now of the reports, because during the war, it's difficult to get accurate reports. It's only assessed after the war, like what happened in the state of Kuwait after the failure of the Iraqi army and moving out of Kuwait. So you can assess the situation in a proper and logical way. But as of now, there is no indication that we have a lot of damages to our coastal areas. But this can be shown later on when the water stops.
Now, if we want to talk more about public health warnings, beyond the visible smoke, what are the air pollutants that SEFCA can identify right now?
Yeah. We are not a monitoring association or organization. As I said in the beginning, we are a professional association that have all firms and companies who are specialized in providing environmental consultation and also environmental services to all companies, private sector and also government sector. We provide all these environmental services and consultation. We are not a monitoring organization. Monitoring in the state of Kuwait officially is done through the EPA, the Environment Public Authority. They have their own monitoring stations in the cities, beyond the cities. And also the good thing is that most of the refineries and oil sector, the government sector that deals with the oil and oil derivatives, they have also their own air quality monitoring stations, whether they are mobiles or fixed stations. And these fixed stations are already connected to the EPA system. So whatever happens in that particular area on other cities, it's all the data are coming to the EPA. And as we have noticed from the report, the EPA that have stated that air pollutants are within permissible limit and safe limits.
Now, if I recall, we've experienced similar during the 12-day war when they struck when the Israeli occupation struck Iran's nuclear facilities. There was reports of following up on the air quality. Now, with the immense anxiety regarding Bushehr nuclear plant and other nuclear facilities across the water and air, if that facility and other facilities were compromised again, what are the realistic window of time Kuwait has to react to an atmospheric or maritime radiation leak?
Okay. We have, again, two scenarios. One scenario is the enrichment facility at Natanz and Fordo and other ones in Isfahan, and also the Bushehr. They are two different things. The one in Natanz is enrichment facility. The one in Bushehr, it's a reactor.
Nuclear.
And both of them, they have different type of radiation that might be released. Anything that comes from Natanz will not be impacting us directly, for sure. The most high risk is the Bushehr. And I'm very, we say in risk assessment, very unlikely that this Bushehr reactor will be hit. But in risk, as I have said, everything can be changed. Once sometimes we say this will not happen, it might happen. Now, just in case, if this happens and the Bushehr reactor is hit, the most dangerous, radiation, because there is two things might happen. There is radiation might be released, and also chemicals might be released from the explosion of the reactor or the melting of the reactor. Again, we are safe because of the distance. The distance between Bushehr to Kuwait is about 300 kilometers. So any radiation to reach Kuwait will not take in 1 second. and the radiation will be mainly impacting the local area first. Then it will be moving whether in the water or by the air to other areas. But again, with the wind direction, the north westerly winds, most of the air pollutants, whether chemicals or radiation, it will be moving hopefully away from Kuwait.
Now, if we want to get into a little bit more details, as you an expert in this field, and if we can draw a comparison, Bushehr is at higher risk than Fordo, for example, being a nuclear reactor. If we take comparison as Chernobyl, the quarantine of the area, it affects the center, but it will last for many years. The impact on Kuwait, how can we deal with it in that sense?
Well, Chernobyl is a different story. It was like, doing some kind of experimental work that led to the explosion. But what's going to happen if something happened, like, as I said, it is a risk, possibility, probability. What's going to happen is that, it's a different situation because you're going to be using conventional, like, warheads to hit the reactor. You need massive amount of, like, bombs to melt the reactor. But, once the reactor is melted, as I said, there will be two types of release: radiation and also chemical. Radiation, like, uranium hexafluoride, and also chemicals like, hydrogen fluorides. And these are like, can have an effect on the respiratory system, mainly, and also burns and other types of radiation impacts on the health of the people who are around or surrounding the plant itself. But like on the 12 days war that happened, I also had several interviews, and I said it will be mostly unlikely to happen because nobody want to hurt the people within from radiation point of view of the area. So the Americans or the other aggressors that might bomb, Bushehr, they would need to think about the health impact, about the population. So this is unlikely to happen that, this facility to be hit or hitting the Bushehr reactor.
God forbids. Dr. Ali, let's take another quick break and we'll continue later on.
منظومة الاتصالات بالكويت شغالة بكفاءة عالية ولله الحمد. والهيئة العامة للاتصالات وتقنية المعلومات مستعدة لأي طارئ لا قدر الله. وفي ظل التوترات اللي تمر فيها المنطقة، فعلنا خطط الطوارئ وعززنا التعاون مع الجهات المعنية عشان نضمن استقرار الخدمات الرقمية وسرعة الاستجابة لأي مستجد. الوضع تحت المتابعة وكل الجهات المختصة على أتم الجاهزية. عسى الله يحفظ الكويت وأهلها.
Welcome back to our live daily coverage of the latest happening within this crisis in the region and locally. Now, joining me over the phone is Major Sara Jamil from the General Department of Public Relations and Media Security at the Ministry of Interior. Sara Jamil, first of all, thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you also for inviting me to be with you. Happy Eid, Eidkum Mubarak, and inshallah the coming days become better and we celebrate the coming days, inshallah, in peace.
Ameen, inshallah. Major Sara, what precautionary measures would you advise citizens and residents to follow, especially during Eid and in the period after, given the current situation?
Yes, citizens and residents are advised to follow official instructions issued by the Ministry of Interior and remain attentive to warning sirens and alerts, especially in public places and shopping malls and the open markets. It's important to identify the emergency exits and follow safety procedures calmly and check with the security personnel and the police personnel in the location and follow their instructions if they hear the sirens. And of course, rely only on verified official sources for updates and avoid circulating unconfirmed information.
Also, Major Sarah, we recently heard about the launch of the Mobile Early System warning. Can you walk us through how it works in simple terms and how it would help keep people safe?
Yes, the warning system, it's launched by the Ministry of Interior in coordination with the CITRA, and this is the National Emergency Alert System. It's called like this, using cell broadcast technology to deliver fast and secure alerts during emergencies. So the system consists of 4 messages categories. The level 1 national warning alerts, accompanied by a high emergency tone. The second level, emergency alerts, accompanied by standard text message tone. Third level, or level 3, general alert delivered as a silent text message. Level 4, periodic test accompanied by a standard text message tone. Users can control the settings via their mobile devices and disable them as desired, except for the level 1 alerts. They can't make it silent. And the system will currently operate on the Android and Huawei devices, with support for Apple devices to be introduced in a later phase in the near future, inshallah.
Inshallah. And also, Major Sarah, if someone comes across suspicious objects or remnants like debris and shrapnel, what should they do immediately and who should they contact?
Please don't approach, don't touch, and of course report it immediately to 112. These missiles debris may have some or contain some unexploded material, so please don't touch it. Maybe it's hot or sharp. So please be careful and report it to 112, and they will go, inshallah, the specialized team will go and handle the situation safely.
And how important is public cooperation when it comes to following official instructions, especially with so much information and misinformation on social media?
It's a critical security efforts. Are most effective when supported by an aware and responsible community, following official instructions, avoiding rumors, and sharing accurate information help maintain public order and prevent panic, especially during times when misinformation can spread quickly through social media.
And before we let you go, Major Sarah, what message or advice would you like to leave our viewers today?
We want to tell them that your safety is a shared responsibility. Please stay informed through official sources. Remain calm when you hear the sirens. Adhere to all safety guidelines. If you are driving and you hear the sirens, go to the right side of the road or near a safe location. Then wait until you hear the continuous tone, and then you can head again to your location. Together with awareness and cooperation, we can ensure the safety and security for our community. And 112, the emergency hotline, is receiving the calls 24/7 and provide the public with the security and humanitarian assistance.
Major Sarah Jamil from the General Department of Public Relations and Security Media at the Ministry of Interior, we thank you for this info. Quick break and we'll continue.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة، خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
Welcome back to our daily coverage of the latest breaking news from Kuwait and the region in regards with the latest crisis. Also still with me in the studio is Dr. Ali Khreibet, President of SEFCA, sorry. Now, when we talk about post-war remediation, whenever conflict ends, the environmental bill is a massive. How are Kuwait, EPA and SEFCA already looking at a roadmap on how to clean up the Gulf that has become a graveyard for tanks and military hardware?
Well, as I said from the beginning, we are a professional association, and we are the right hand for the Environment Public Authority, or the EPA, in the state of Kuwait. Our role is really separate, although we are coordinating with each other. EPA is mainly legislative and monitoring the situation. But I think the most important thing during the wars is to document. Yes. So we need big documentation, and this documentation need to be done now, not later on. Later on you can do it, but it's most beneficial to do it right now. And you have to document any refiners being hit, all the air pollutants being released, the concentrations, the atmospheric condition at that particular day or days. So also all the coastal areas, the concentration of pollutants within the marine environment of the state of Kuwait. So we need to document anything that happened, any place that were hit during the aggression of the state of Kuwait, facilities need to be documented, photographs, videos, and still photos, and also having details analysis, taking samples, water samples, soil samples, and to see if there is any damage on the coastal areas, just to document it.
It's interesting you emphasized on documenting in this current situation and time, because well, it's part of the monitoring system for all environmental agencies in this scenario. Now, is there any data sharing still happening between Gulf environmental agencies?
Well, in the state of Kuwait, there is a regional organization. It was established in 1978 by the late Dr. Abdurrahman Al-Awadi, who used to be the Minister of the Environment, and the leaders, pioneers in the state of Kuwait of environmental management and environmental protection. During that time, in 1978, he formulated a regional organization in which all countries that are located within the Gulf area, the Arabian Gulf area, are members within this organization. So Iran, State of Kuwait, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and also the Sultanate of Oman and Qatar are members of this organization. The good thing is that the headquarters of this organization is in the state of Kuwait. And it is the current president, Dr. Mohammed Al-Ahmed, who used to be the deputy director of the EPA long time ago. Now, this organization, they do massive work of monitoring for any spillage or water pollution within the whole Gulf area. So they have their own data, they share this data with each other. So this organization can have massive information about the current situation in the Gulf area. So I think, cooperating with the ROPME, it's called ROPME, the Regional Organization for the Protection of the Marine Environment, is very necessary and very important and significant during this time.
Is Kuwait desert habitat under threat because of this war?
It is, but it is localized. As of now, as of today, it is localized within the areas that are being hit or destructed. So it is till now localized. This is in terms of the desert area and the habitats. But for air pollution, as I said, it becomes from localized and it moves to a regional direction.
What about the migratory routes of birds flying over Kuwait? Are they impacted?
Well, like humans, if you're walking in a highway and you feel that it's not safe or being hit, you will divert your way, right? So it is the same thing with the birds or any desert organism. The habitat that will be most destructed to not be the habitat that these birds or reptiles or other types of desert organism will be sitting and having this habitat again. So they will be moving from one area to another. So I think because of the current situation, maybe the routes of some of the birds will be diverted. Maybe.
Now, if we talk about the silent impact, we focus on the fires and spills, but what about the acoustic impact of the constant naval activity, explosion of the Gulf marine biodiversity?
Well, there is big research done worldwide, especially by the American forces, about the acoustics and impacts on the mammals, especially whales. We don't have in the Gulf area, like, a lot of whales habitat. Maybe they are migratory from outside the Indian Ocean and nearby areas to the Gulf, but they are not like, localized within the marine area of the Gulf area. Yeah, there is impact on in the mammals, but as of now, there is no studies or any investigation have been done to see what are the impacts of the acoustics of military ships on the marine mammals.
And Dr. Ali, I know you have a busy schedule, and before we leave you, I would like to talk about the infrastructure resilience. Are Kuwait's newer clean fuel units at the refineries more or less environmentally hazardous when struck compared to old technologies?
No, it is the same because the material is same. You have crude oils, and within crude oils you have derivatives. So whether it is aviation fuel, other type of derivatives like diesel, all these are like, the origin is from crude oil. It is when you refine it, you will have all these derivatives. So the impact will be the same, but maybe the constituents, the pollutants within these chemicals or derivatives are different. Some of them may be more hazardous, others may be less.
Well, Dr. Ali Khreibet, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much.
To share this insightful information about the environment. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break and we'll continue with our live coverage.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
منظومة الاتصالات بالكويت شغالة بكفاءة عالية ولله الحمد، والهيئة العامة للاتصالات وتقنية المعلومات مستعدة لأي طارئ لا قدر الله. وفي ظل التوترات اللي تمر فيها المنطقة فعلنا خطط الطوارئ وعززنا التعاون مع الجهات المعنية عشان نضمن استقرار الخدمات الرقمية وسرعة الاستجابة لأي مستجد. الوضع تحت المتابعة وكل الجهات المختصة على أتم الجاهزية. عسى الله يحفظ الكويت وأهلها.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
Welcome back to our daily live coverage of the latest happening in this crisis from Kuwait and from the region. Now, Minister of Health Dr. Ahmed Al-Awadi conducted inspection tours to some hospitals and health centers across the country to ensure the smooth workflow during Eid al-Fitr holidays, assessing readiness levels and the provisions of pharmaceutical supplies. The minister also visited the Farwaniya Hospital, Jahra Hospital, and they were verified the availability of pharmaceutical stocks and monitored the supply systems to ensure uninterrupted service delivery. The ministry said in a statement that the visit were part of the ongoing field monitoring approach aimed at strengthening preparedness across all health facilities and reaffirming its firm commitment to providing integrated, safe services. The ministry also emphasized the readiness of the healthcare system to handle various circumstances and ensure the continuity of care with efficiency and competence. Here is more.
In response to the series of Iranian missile and drone attacks starting in late February 2026, the Ministry of Health has activated emergency protocols to manage casualties and ensure the continuity of medical services. The ministry has been in a state of continuous vigilance and high readiness to treat individuals injured by falling shrapnel and debris from intercepted threats. Emergency departments at Al Adan Hospital and Al Jahra Hospital were designated to receive initial casualties, while patients requiring advanced medical intervention have been transferred to Jabr Hospital. Meanwhile, the surgical teams at Al Adan Hospital were placed on high alert, with several urgent surgeries performed on patients with trauma from shrapnel and fractures. As for the triage guidance, the ministry has urged the public to visit primary health care centers for non-urgent cases to keep hospital emergency rooms clear for critical injuries. To support the sudden increase in medical demand, the ministry has secured essential supplies, affirming that the strategic reserve of blood and blood components is maintained as safe levels. The ministry also stressed that emergency plans for the central administration of blood transfusion were activated, including extending hours at donation centers, which collected over 2,000 units in early March. Regarding the medical supplies, the ministry announced that operational plans are in place to ensure an uninterrupted supply of medications and medical equipment across all facilities. On the other hand, the ministry has implemented several administrative and safety measures to protect patients and staff, mainly the enhanced security in which public hospitals have enforced stricter visitor policies, including a maximum of 2 visitors per patient, mandatory screening, and 24/7 CCTV monitoring. The ministry noted that outpatient clinics continue to operate and medications are being dispensed according to the scheduled appointments to maintain routine care alongside the emergency response. Meanwhile, authorities are emphasizing mental health, providing guidance on coping with the stress and trauma caused by air raid sirens and regional instability. Amid intensive efforts, the Ministry of Health maintains direct 24-hour coordination with other government bodies, including the Kuwait Ministry of Defense and the Cabinet, to integrate decision-making during the crisis. For his part, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Abdullah Sened, held several meetings and briefings to provide updates on the nation's healthcare system, including emergency preparedness, public health campaigns, and the introduction of digital health services. Dr. Sened has emphasized that the Kuwaiti healthcare system is operating at full capacity, with 7 public hospitals, 14 specialized centers, and 118 primary healthcare centers on high alert. He has reported on the coordination of emergency and intensive care units, ensuring a stable 49% occupancy rate in the hospitals, and managing a steady supply of blood units. The spokesperson has promoted the launch of the Salem app, which enables citizens and residents to securely book appointments and access health records, replacing the previous Sahha app.
The Ministry of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy announced the return to service of an additional overhead power line after completing repairs to the damage caused by debris resulting from the response to the heinous Iranian attacks. Ministry spokesperson Engineer Fatma Hayat stated that the repair work carried out reflected a high level of readiness and dedications to duty. Engineer Hayat confirmed that the technical teams continue to work around the clock to complete repairs on the remaining lines according to the highest technical standards and safety procedures, ensuring the stability of the technical systems and continuity of its services. She praised the efforts of national staff, including engineers, technicians, and field workers, noting that serving the nation is a badge of honor for all ministry personnel. And regionally, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense announced the interception and destruction of 12 drones in its eastern province. This came in a statement issued by the Ministry of Defense of the Kingdom, delivered by spokesperson Major General Staff Turki Al-Malki. With this attack, the total number of drones targeting the Kingdom since the start of the Iranian attack has risen to 607 drones, in addition to 52 missiles, including 45 ballistic missiles and 7 cruise missiles. The United Arab Emirates Ministry of Defense announced that air defense systems are responding to missile attacks and drones coming from Iran. The ministry stated that the sounds heard in various areas across the country are the results of the air defense systems intercepting ballistic missiles, while fighter jets are intercepting drones and cruise missiles. And moving internationally, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the European Union stands in solidarity with Gulf partners as Iran strikes on regional energy infrastructure, drive oil and gas prices to double their pre-war levels, while EU leaders prepare emergency measures to shield customers from spiraling energy costs. Here's more.
As smoke rises over the Gulf, the political fog in Brussels is proving equally dense. For weeks, the European Union, traditionally the world's largest trading bloc and a self-proclaimed champion of international law, has struggled to find a unified voice in the face of the war on Iran. While the global energy market reels from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the corridors of power in the EU are defined by a striking disconnect, a desperate scramble for oil coupled with a paralyzing internal division over the legality of the conflict and the role of the Israeli occupation. During the Emergency European Council Summit in Brussels, held recently, European leaders were forced to pivot their entire agenda as energy prices reached structural danger zones. The atmosphere was described by insiders as stunned and sidelined. In a joint statement, the 27 heads of state demanded an immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and a halt on strikes against energy and water infrastructure. However, the bold language on paper masks a deeply fragmented reality on the ground. While European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has expressed vocal support for regime change and aligned closely with the US-Israeli occupation objectives, other member states are sounding the alarm on the erosion of international legal norms. The divide is geographical and ideological. In Berlin, Chancellor Friedrich Merz has positioned Germany firmly behind the military operations, labeling Iran a major security threat and dismissing calls for lecturing allies during active combat. This stands in a sharp contrast to the Mediterranean bloc, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has strongly condemned the strikes, even refusing to allow US forces to use Spanish bases for operations against Iran. France's Emmanuel Macron has warned that military actions conducted outside the framework of international law risk a total breakdown of global stability. On the energy front, the EU's oil and gas coordination groups have been meeting almost daily. Despite public assurance that storage levels remain stable, the anxiety is intense. The European Commission has welcomed the International Energy Agency, IEA, a massive release of 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, but even this historic move is seen as a temporary bandage on a severed artery.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
As we continue our daily live coverage of the latest happening in the region, joining me now from London is KTV2 correspondent Jamal Shaheen. Jamal Shaheen, first of all, Eid Mubarak and welcome.
Eid Mubarak for all our friends and brother in Kuwait.
Now, Jamal, how do we explain the shift in Keir Starmer's government position for refusing to allow the use of military bases to strike Iran?
First of all, this is very complicated. We have to look how Keir Starmer have a big dilemma in internal affair and international affair. Keir Starmer, a month ago, have lost one of the most important seats in Manchester City, which Labour Party reserve and keeps the seat for more than 100 years. He lost it because his situation and attitude toward what's happening in Gaza. Even if there is a huge shift toward recognize a Palestinian state, but the public is still angry. In the same time, he faces a lot of economic issue. So there is a new election in May, local election, of course. If Keir Starmer or Labour Party lost this election, there is a growing challenge for Keir Starmer to resign or faces a new election about himself, a new vote inside the party. So this is why he wants to keep himself away of the war. But in the same time, there is a lot of pressure on him how to protect and how to cooperate with allies, the strategic ally of the United Kingdom and the Gulf state. Not only this, but there is also a huge impact in economic issue of the high cost of fuel and gas. Not only this, we have a new thing is happening today. Iran tried to attack Diego Garcia military base in Chagos Island, which means a new pressure for Keir Starmer to put himself. We can say he's one step in the war and one step out of the war. But from the beginning, he said he will prefer to de-escalate the situation and take defenses action.
Jamal, it's interesting that you mentioned Diego Garcia. What is the importance of that base in the operation against Iran?
Diego Garcia is very complicated. Diego Garcia is a common or joint military base by United States and the United Kingdom. It's in the Indian Pacific. It's an island called Chagos, it's a part of African country called the Mauritius. This is the only base in UK and the United States can reach to any other country if they want, if they go on war without need a fuel or fuel again. This is what very important for US and for United Kingdom. And also it's have a facility to access the bomber, the new technology bomber who have P2, which is not every airport is ready to host this kind of plane. It's very important for them. This is why we see a lot of tension last 2 months between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer about this military base.
So the change of London, now can this decision be considered direct support for the US, or does it remain within the framework of collective defense as the government claims?
You know, this is what they call £1 million answer or question, because there is a lot of pressure on him to join if the attack today was happen, or yes, there is none of the 2 rockets was reached to the military base, but it's targeting the British interest. That means a new pressure. On the other hand, he still prefer to do escalation. If we can look to what's happened yesterday, there are 2 important issues. The first one, a meeting with the minister, they allow or give the United States access to use military base. British military base. In the same time, there is a call between the British Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper and the Iranian British Minister Abbas Araghchi. Yes, what we've seen in public, both of them, Araghchi said, if the UK allow the United States to use its British military base, that means attack on us, and then the British interest will be attacked. And on the other hand, Yvette Cooper threatened if the Iranian target the strategic partner in Gulf state and also any British interest, this is have outcome, and then maybe the UK will involve it in the war. But there is also a growing tension, 56 or 59, sorry, from the public against the war. In the same time, there is some MPs and leader of other opposition party against them, and they asked if there is any going to go to war or any intention to go to the war, they have to go to vote or a permission from the UK Parliament. But in the same time, we don't know what's going on. The army, the chief army of the British Army said, all of the decision we made is under consideration and will be reviewed if there is any de-escalation in the ground. But still want to de-escalate the situation.
Jamal, do you think it's US President Donald Trump's pressure or statements that influenced the British decision?
No, because Keir Starmer, I think, if he said Britain should have a leadership, not a followership. That means he wants, yes, we have a strategic relationship, but we have to take our decision to learn from what's happened in the past. And he also, as I told you from the beginning, he's scared to lose the local election in May. So he tried to keep the balance. But on the other hand, or behind the scene, the highest cooperation in the planet in military and security is between United States and United Kingdom. Don't forget, there was a delegation from military and security was in the last 2 days in the United States to discuss how they can cooperate to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and secure the Gulf country. This is maybe why they have finally access to the United States to use the British military base. And in the same time, the defense secretary said, I'm in regular contact with his counterpart in the United States. So there is some things in public, but also it's still the highest level of cooperation between military and security on the planet between United Kingdom and United States.
It's interesting. Do you think that this special relations between London and Washington is facing a real test in this crisis?
It's a temporary one. This is, okay, the United States and the United Kingdom have the Five Eyes. And then there is another cooperation between both of them. As I mentioned earlier, there is nearly a daily contact between the security and the military leaders from both of the country and the intelligence as well. I believe this is something like political issue, and then on the ground, the highest level is still the same. We have to make some difference between politics and the ground. Politics, everyone will try to keep his interest, like the French, the German, all of them is against the war. Because even even the GCC countries, they are against the war in Iran by United States and Israel. But everybody here is against what Iran did. So this is very complicated issue, but behind the skin, the cooperation level is still high and may be highest in the coming days.
Now, Jamal, you mentioned earlier about polls and how it affects the government decision. Now, if polls indicate that 95% oppose the attack, how is the government dealing with the public opposition?
The public will, this is very fluid situation. If the public, we expect in April, the price of energy and electricity will be more higher. This is why, on the other hand, nearly 65% of British people are not happy with the dealing of Keir Starmer with the crisis. Most of them think he's too late and too slow, even if they are against the war. This situation is moving very fast. He can't hold the public. In the same time, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. The supply of gas and the oil is 21% of the global energies came from GCC country. This will not affect the global market. They will affect the medicine. They will affect the supply of food. If this is continue, definitely the public will go against not only Keir Starmer, was all European leader. This is why he said, Keir Starmer and the other minister here, we are working in a plan which would be a comprehensive plan to coordinate with GCC country and with other to find a solution, a practical solution to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and keep our ally safe. One of this, we should go to agreement or diplomacy. This should be find a solution not for Iran to acquire nuclear weapon and also degrade its capability to use its long missile to attack neighbors, which is it's the same of what Donald Trump wants, but in the other way, by de-escalate the situation by diplomacy.
But Jamal, how does London envision at the end of this escalation? As you mentioned earlier, the main issue is the Strait of Hormuz. What do you think that's going to happen?
We have to find a common ground between all of us. War was a heavy violence diplomatic solution. There is nowhere, we can't go for a war forever. In the end of the day, there is a negotiation, everybody sit at the table. The only solution to de-escalate the situation was the guarantee no nuclear weapon, no capability of long missile which can attack its neighbor. Because what we see from what's happened last 3 weeks is very dangerous, not for the security and the stability of Middle East, but for the security of the stability of the world. Even with 400 million barrels of oil from the reserve will be released, which is not enough, just only for 40 days So if this continues, it means we have to find a solution.
And
No way.
is London working with any European partners to help reach this vision in ending the current situation?
Yes. Keir Starmer said on Wednesday he working with France, with the United States, with Germany, with GCC country. There was a meeting last Saturday with the Secretary of Defense and also the Minister for Middle East and North Africa was with the GCC ambassador, including the ambassador of Kuwait, to try to find a solution. But this plan is still in the beginning because they don't know where they can start. Even we look what the French President Emmanuel Macron said. Any arrangement should be with Iran and also should be with GCC country. They have a plan, but we don't know the plan yet. It's still in the beginning. Maybe this is why there is a team. It's a high-level team from UK was traveled to United States to find how they can coordinate to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and also guarantee the security and stability of Middle East, which is the main pillar of the security and stability of the world. There is some people say now, let's back to the cool era. If we back to cool era, that means the Europe and go back for nearly 150 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jamal Shaheen, our correspondent from London, we do appreciate all the input you supplied and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
Welcome back to our daily live coverage of the crisis in the Middle East, bringing you the latest breaking news and updates. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the United States is nearing the achievement of its objective in the war against Iran as the military operations complete their third consecutive week. He explained that the first objective is to complete undermining of Iran's missiles capabilities, launch platform, second, the destruction of Iran's defense industrial base, and third, the elimination of its naval and air forces, including anti-aircraft weapon systems. He pointed out that the fourth objective is never allowing Iran to come close to possessing nuclear capabilities and always remaining in the position where the United States can respond quickly and forcibly if that occurs. He added that the fifth objective is to protect allies in the Middle East at the highest level. He stressed that the Strait of Hormuz must be protected and monitored as necessary by other countries that use it, and the United States does not do so, adding that if requested, it would assist those countries in the efforts in Hormuz. Earlier, we spoke with our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Dalia Al-Komi, and asked her about the Pentagon's approaching the White House for an additional $200 billion to fund the ongoing operation against Iran, and what was the initial reaction from Congress, as well as if there is any consensus on how long this major combat phase is expected to last. Here's
It's absolutely true. The Pentagon's reported request for an additional $200 billion is already triggering sharp debate on Capitol Hill. One side, Republican leadership is broadly supportive, framing it as necessary to sustain momentum and avoid a drawn-out conflict, while Democrats, on the other hand, are increasingly divided, some backing the request under national security grounds, while others are warning about another open-ended war and demanding clear objectives and timelines. We can say at this stage there is no real consensus on how long the major combat phase will last. Pentagon planners are signaling weeks to a few months if operations remain air and sea focused. Some lawmakers are openly skeptical, pointing to past conflicts where timelines expanded significantly. On the new troop deployments, the deployment of additional Marines and sailors, particularly around the USS Boxer, is officially being described as defensive and deterrent. The mission profile includes a couple of points. Most important of which are protecting the U.S. assets and bases in the Gulf, securing key shipping lanes, especially near the Strait of Hormuz, rapid response capability for evacuations or contingencies. However, the military analysts note that a Marine expedition unit inherently provides limited ground combat capability, meaning while not proof of an imminent ground invasion, it does give the White House flexible options if, only if escalation continues. On the strike outcomes, we can say Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's claim over 7,000 targets struck is being cautiously echoed with Pentagon circles, but with important caveats. Internal assessments suggest drone infrastructure significantly degraded, maybe by 50 to 70%, ballistic missile capabilities partially degraded, but far from being eliminated, as being repeated by officials and members of the current administration. Command and control nodes disrupted, but not fully neutralized. We could say, bottom line, that Iran's retaliatory capability is reduced, but still intact, particularly for asymmetric responses. On energy market intervention, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's proposal to ease sanctions on Iranian oil already at sea is being viewed in Washington as highly pragmatic, but politically sensitive. From the economic point of view, it's seen as a fast way to cool oil prices and calm global markets. Politically, it's controversial because it appears to undercut the pressure campaign on Iran. It's double-ended sword, if we might say. So far, the consensus, we can say it's less than an olive branch and more of a market stabilization move under pressure, especially with concerns about supply disruptions in the Gulf. Well, finally, President Donald Trump's remarks about allies being caught off guard have raised real diplomatic concerns. The current mood in Washington right now is that Gulf partners' coordination is active, but it's strained, especially after reported drone incidents affecting regional energy infrastructure. Asian allies, including Japan, frustration over lack of prior consultation, particularly given their energy dependence on the region. But despite this, the U.S. is now intensifying back-channel diplomacy to reassure partners and prevent fragmentation of the coalition.
And lastly, a U.S. President's administration waived sanctions on the purchase of Iranian oil at sea for 30 days on March 20th in a latest attempt to ease oil prices that have been driven up by their war on Iran. Here's more.
A prolonged Iran war risks an unprecedented crisis in global energy supplies. And that kind of shock could ripple through every major economy, raising costs for households and businesses. Dmitry Zhdenikov is Reuters energy and commodities editor.
We're already in the energy shock. I mean, to put it simple, the world has lost around a quarter of oil that it was getting daily before the war started. So when a quarter of something is not available, I mean, inevitably people will be scrambling to buy more and more oil and products for higher prices. So the shock is already very big.
But some countries are more exposed than others and less able to cushion the blow. In Europe, a fresh energy shock revives painful memories of the surge that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Germany's industry-heavy economy has a lot to lose. Its manufacturing sector has only just stopped contracting for the first time since 2022. And as a major exporter, it's vulnerable to any global downturn. Italy also has a big manufacturing base, and oil and gas account for one of the highest shares of primary energy consumption in Europe, making it sensitive to price spikes. Britain's electricity system relies more on gas-fired power than other major European economies, and gas prices, rising faster than oil since the start of the war, often set its electricity costs. Japan is firmly in the firing line. It sources around 95% of its oil from the Middle East, and nearly 90% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. A weak yen is already lifting import costs, feeding through to food and daily necessities. Among emerging heavyweights, the Gulf faces a direct hit. Some forecasters now expect contraction this year, reversing pre-war growth hopes. Higher oil and gas prices are no help if the effective closure of Hormuz prevents exports, especially for Kuwait, Qatar and Bahrain. India is another exposed giant. It imports about 90% of its crude and nearly half of its liquefied petroleum gas, with roughly half of its oil and an even larger share of its LPG coming through Hormuz. Economists are trimming growth forecasts, and the rupee has fallen to a record low. Turkey, which borders Iran, is bracing for potential refugee inflows and more geopolitical uncertainty. Economically, its central bank has paused interest rate cuts again and has sold as much as $23 billion in reserves to bolster the lira. Sri Lanka has made every Wednesday a public holiday for state sector workers to cap energy costs. Schools, universities and public institutions are shutting. Non-essential public transport is suspended, and a national fuel pass now restricts fuel purchases. Pakistan, which was on the brink 2 years ago, has raised petrol prices and closed schools for 2 weeks. Government departments have had fuel allowances halved and are barred from buying new air conditioners. Reza Bakir is Global Head of Sovereign Advisory Services at Alvarez and Massel. He says it's a substantial economic shock to many emerging markets.
Countries that have large petroleum imports, for example, countries like Pakistan, Egypt, have had petroleum import bills last year of more than $10 billion each. Second, countries that have weak external balances, such as they have current account deficits or they don't have very high levels of foreign exchange reserves that can buffer these kinds of shocks.
Energy choke points and rising prices are testing economies worldwide. The longer the conflict persists, the more acute the pressure becomes.
As we bring today's live coverage to a close, we call upon citizens and residents to adhere closely to the instructions issued by the Ministry of Interior and relevant authorities. It is important to recognize the 3 distinct siren signals, understand their meanings, and remain composed in the event of any emergency. Please rely exclusively on official sources of information and refrain from circulating unverified news or rumors, as misinformation may carry serious consequences. Maintaining awareness, vigilance, and sense of responsibility is key to safeguarding yourself, your family, and the wider community. Full cooperation and strict compliance with officials' directives are vital to preserving safety, stability, and public confidence during this period. We pray to Allah Almighty to continue to protect and safeguard our beloved Kuwait and the entire GCC region. Goodbye.